terms of having all of that information at our fingertips, and talked about what some of the skills are that good researchers use. Let's try to make our researching skills a little bit stronger. So we're going to focus on how to use specific search strategies. First thing that I want to talk about are how to make sure I'm getting really good results, and then what I do with them. Keyword search is the best way to go. I'm pretty sure most of us do this. We just type in whatever word comes into our head and see what comes up. But there are ways to make that a little bit more beneficial. First and foremost, you want to use your prior knowledge. So when you sit down and say you want to look up, well, I don't know, something about the Mediterranean Sea, I know nothing about it, so I would probably just type those in. But had I learned something about it in one of my classes, or I'd heard something about it on the news, I want to include anything I remember, any keyword that I remember. And by keyword, I mean a key noun or verb or adjective. Not necessarily, how do you replace a light bulb? That's asking a question, and that's going to be looking for all those words if I include all of that. So use your prior knowledge and create a list of keywords. The next thing you want to consider is using something called Boolean terms, and I'm going to get into more detail about what that is in a second. And then lastly, cross-referencing. Cross-referencing is when you kind of use the results that you get to help you narrow your search a little bit more. So back to the Boolean terms. These are a series of words or punctuation that can help guide it can narrow or eliminate or broaden, however you use them, your search. So it kind of makes your search stronger. So the first one is and, A-N-D, capitalized. It has to be capitalized. So if you look at the example, if I type these keywords in, cloning and humans and ethics, what is going to happen is that's going to narrow my search. So if I look at that Venn diagram, by typing in the capital A and D, that is going to only focus on what's right in the center. It has to include all three to get a hit. So that really helps. Instead of just typing in cloning to start, this is going to help narrow down what hits I get. Now the opposite is if I were to use or. If I type in capital O-R, what this does is kind of broaden it out. So instead of eliminating the ones that are by themselves, it includes them. So this gives me a lot more information to pull from. And also a lot more information to have to eliminate. The last one is not, capital N-O-T. I don't have a visual for this, but this is kind of self-explanatory. If I were to have typed in genetics not reproduction, what that does is eliminate any article that has the word reproduction in it. So I know I'm only focusing on maybe genetics for diseases or something like that. So that'll help eliminate something that I know is not going to help me. Cross-referencing, what I was talking about, is something along the lines of whenever I get a series of hits. So if I'm looking at I typed in the cloning search. If I'm looking at my search results, and you'll notice that there are bolded words. If I were to go through and just kind of skim those little blurbs underneath that have all the words that I had typed in, I might be, if I'm paying attention, I might be able to pull out some other keywords. So if I look at, let me see, the one towards the bottom that says cloning genetics generation, and I see in that blurb there's something called therapeutic cloning. I didn't know anything about that, so I might be able to type that in to another keyword search to learn what that is and see if that would be applicable to what I'm researching. And again, that's called cross-referencing. That's when I'm using the results to help find better results. Something else to consider, this is also a Boolean strategy. Punctuation, you can use specific punctuation in your search. The first one being quotation marks, parentheses, and then I have some Google specific ones. The quotation marks would help to make sure I'm getting that exact phrasing. So if I look at college students and test anxiety, I would be looking for, it wouldn't just be pulling up anything about college students or anything about test anxiety or just anything about anxiety. It will be looking for articles that are specifically mentioning those two phrases. So I would get college students and test anxiety would be bolded in my search results. Parentheses allow us to be a little bit more complex with our search. So this can eliminate some things. So if you look at the example, it says a search on smoking or tobacco and cancer. So this is going to allow me to broaden it to either smoking and cancer or tobacco and cancer. Instead of having to do two separate searches, this will do both searches at the same time. So this is just, you can save some time using these parentheses and make your search a little bit more beneficial to you. And if I look at the Google specific punctuation, what's interesting about this is since everybody, we use Google as a verb now, so it's pretty much the most dominant search engine. It's that some of this is no other search engine will do it, but Google, and then some of it other search engines will do. Just give it a minute, the internet's being a little pokey. So some of these we've already talked about on what to do, but this is, they give you some really neat examples. So if I put the @ symbol in front, if you look right here, I could search social media. So if I want to search Twitter using Google, I would put the @ in front of the word. So I could put @Hillary Clinton, and that would search social media specifically for that. If I want to search for a price, I could put the cash symbol in front of the number. If I'm looking for a hashtag, this would also search Twitter. If I were to do the I could also, up here, sorry to go back, I could do @Facebook. So that would search a different kind of social media. If I want to exclude for Google, I don't have to use the Boolean term not. I can use the hyphen instead. So for this search right here, Jaguar speed -car means I'm going to be getting only hits on an actual animal jaguar instead of a Jaguar car. So that's kind of helpful to eliminate that. We talked about the quotation marks for an exact match. I thought this was really neat when I learned about this, is you can use an asterisk for what's called a wild card or an unknown word. So if I wanted to look up various things that were ranked the most in the world, I could do largest asterisk in the world, and it'll give me a list of the largest asterisks in the world. Searching within a range of numbers, that's good if I'm going to be looking to be buying something or looking for a service. We talked about the or. This was interesting to be able to search for a specific site. I didn't know that you could do that. And then related. This one I thought was very interesting and very beneficial to me because I like to get those. It's like the Spotify where it gives you, and Pandora that gives you songs that are similar to something you like to kind of broaden your horizons. This might be interesting for related. If I have a particular website that I like to use or I reference a lot, if I were to type this in, it might help me to find things that are similar. Okay, so we're going to talk now about that little blurb that comes up under the list of your search results. Everybody has a tendency to skim through these. If you're anything like me, you skim through them to look for whatever it is you're looking for, but you never actually click on the link. There's a saying that the best place to hide a body is page 2 on a Google search, since nobody ever makes it that far. So it's a valid thing to say because we've all become pretty lazy with the internet doing a lot of the work for us. So let's talk a little bit about why that's not necessarily a good idea. First and foremost, I need to make sure that I am looking at the link when I get my search results. This is going to tell me a lot. It's going to tell me whether or not it's in a certain domain, like .com or .org. .com stands for commercial. That means they're selling you something, or they're sponsored by ads. .org stands for nonprofit organization. So they have less at stake. They're usually there to inform. .gov is the government. www and the dot, whatever the domain is. Sometimes, it can be something really serious and somber, or it can be something really silly. So paying attention to the tone of the name of the web page at the link is pretty important. Looking specifically at the blurb, if you pay attention, the keywords will be bolded. The one we looked at for cloning, you notice that they were whatever I had typed into my search engine had been bolded for me. So if I look at that and then read it in the context that it pulls for me, because it pulls it out of the sentence and just gives you that part of the sentence, it's easy for me to be able to tell whether or not that's the right context for me. So I need to read the words around the bolded search terms. And again, let's talk about that cross-referencing. You need to think about whether or not there are new words that I can add to my keywords that'll help give me more information that'll be valuable. Your first task is going to, well, not your first task, this is your second task. Your second task is going to be asking you to do a career search. You're going to pick one that you're interested in, any one that you're interested in, hopefully one that you are genuinely interested in pursuing. Write down a list of everything you know about it, all those prior knowledge keywords that we just talked about. Think about the Boolean terms, the punctuation that you might be able to use. Can I use the capital and? Can I eliminate something with the not? Can I put quotation marks around it? Go back and kind of look through those notes and see if there's anything that would benefit your search. So then we want you to type them in. Do your first search. Type in your keywords and the Boolean terms and the punctuation that you want to use, and type them in and get some results. Then spend some time looking at them. Look at your first 5 or 6 results and kind of use the strategies that we talked about. What domains come up? What do the blurbs tell you about it? What does the title of the websites tell you about it? Something to consider about the results is the order in which they are delivered. I don't know if everybody knows how websites or search engines will get those results. Different search engines have they're called algorithms, and I teach English, so I don't know a whole lot about this. But they're called different algorithms, and they do 3 things. They crawl the web, which is basically, walking out into the different websites, and then they index them. So whatever they find on those websites, they put them in a massive index. And then they rank them. And what's interesting about the ranking is that there are several ways that they can be ranking them. The first that I did in my research, the first thing that I found listed was word usage and word placement. So what it does is it kind of goes through the content of the website and looks at what the headings are and the titles. It also will rank according to how many links are on the website, how many other websites link to it, and how many websites does that source link to. So it's like incoming traffic and outgoing traffic. Also, social media shares. There's a lot of people looking at that now. They're kind of looking at if it's shared on social media, that must, like a lot, then that must mean it's a valuable source. So that'll give it a higher ranking. Relevance to keywords. So are there a lot of references to the keywords that you put in? And then ultimately popularity. If this is a site that is visited a lot and has a high level of traffic, then it's probably going to get ranked higher. But what's interesting about that is If it gets a higher ranking, and we go back to that whole nobody wants to go to page 2 of a Google search result, you're going to keep clicking on those first 5 result hits, so you're going to end up kind of perpetuating the cycle. You're going to keep giving it a higher rank if you're clicking on the same sites all the time. So that's something to consider when you look at the results of your search here on your career. Are these good? And you'll notice on a Google search result that a lot of it, at the top, a lot of times there'll be something called sponsored, and that's because they're paying to be at the top of the Google search. So it's something to keep in mind whenever you're evaluating whether or not something is a good source for you. And then lastly, when you look at those blurbs, pick out some new keywords. See if there's anything that you can find that will help you with another round of searches. So what I did here is just kind of walk you through all the directions I was just talking at you. So look at, you can pause the video here, or actually stop because I'm going to be done. Stop this and copy those into a format that you can use.